is my second time trying to record this. The first time I did half of the video, and next thing you knew, my phone was not recording, so that was fun. But welcome back to another video. My name is Nikita, and on this channel we diversify our reading and we chat about BIPOC stories, BIPOC authors, especially South Asian stories, both in fiction and in real life. So you can expect a lot of book chats, book recommendations, as well as my podcast called Brown People Problems. All right, so take two. Let's do this again. Okay, so the month of March, I wanted to talk about all the books that I read in the month of March, how I rated them, and I believe I read 11 books in the month of March. Well, I finished 11 books in the month of March, 4 of which were BIPOC authors and BIPOC stories. A little bit less than half, so not as much as I would have liked, but I have been reading other BIPOC stories. I just didn't get around to finishing them in March. So let's get started. So very first book that I read, actually the first book that I read in the month of March was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Now, I really enjoyed Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Beach Read, I thought it was good, but not my favorite. And People We Meet on Vacation is a book that I've had for a long time. I've loaned it to a friend, but it was amazing. It was definitely almost as good as Book Lovers for me. What I really enjoy about Emily Henry's books is that the romance is a nice subplot, but there's just so much character depth and character involvement. And just her way of writing is so immersive. I absolutely love it. Like, I fell in love with Poppy and Alex, the characters in People We Meet on Vacation. I love their banter. There were times when I was just cackling reading this book out loud, and my partner was giving me weird looks about what's going on. But I really, really, really enjoyed it. So that one was definitely 4 stars. And to give you some, explain how my ranking system works, I give 3 stars to books that were good and that I enjoyed. 4 stars are for books that were absolutely amazing, and 5 stars I reserve for the books that were completely life-changing, earth-shattering, life-changing types of books. So if you hear 3 stars in this video, because there's a lot of 3 stars, it doesn't mean that those books weren't good. They were still really good. All right, and then the second book I read was my very first Tessa Bailey. This one is My Killer Vacation. Pretty, I guess, quick. It was like about 300 pages. What drew me to this book was that it's a murder mystery and a romance. So I enjoyed it. It was my first Tessa Bailey, so I was not prepared for the level of steamy scenes in this. But it wasn't bad. Spicy murder mystery. I enjoyed it. It was a good read. I gave it 3 stars. It was a fun story. Up next, I read X's and O's by Amy Leah, who is a Canadian author. Now, this is second one in the series. Set on You is the first one. I just read them in reverse order. I read X's and O's first, and then I read Set on You. X's and O's is this like rom-com that follows this social media like influencer, and she's looking for a Valentine's date, I believe, for something. And so she decides to reach out to all of her ex-boyfriends to see if there's a possible rekindling of a second chance romance. Our main character in here and in Set on You, they're both Asian American sisters, so I enjoyed the added like cultural piece. It was nice. I wish there was more of an emphasis on it, but it was still quite nice. I gave this one, I think, 2.5 stars. X's and O's was not my favorite. It was fun. It was a nice book. It was quite long for just like a rom-com, and it wasn't super steamy, so it's, I guess, more like friendly to everyone. But I wish there was more. I wish the romance stayed a subplot and there was another plot, because the way that I like my rom-coms is that I like romance to be one of the subplots, but I need something else as well to capture my attention. So that was my only gripe with this. But I actually really enjoyed Set on You by Amy Leah. It's the first one. So the series follows the story of 2 sisters, Crystal and Tara Chen. This is Crystal's story, and X's and O's was Tara's story. I really enjoyed this a lot more. I gave this 3 stars. This follows Crystal Chen, who is a curvy fitness influencer. And yes, there was a romance piece, like some gym romance, which I thought was a really cool setting. But a huge emphasis on this book is body image, body neutrality, self-acceptance, and Crystal's journey with that. And I really enjoyed that. So that's what I mean when I say I need another plot line in addition to romance to really capture my interest. Yeah, again, not much to say. I wish there was a little bit more inclusion of like their BIPOC identities, but it was still really nice. It was fun. I enjoyed it. The next book that I read it on my Kobo from the library, and that one is White Coat Diaries by Maddie Sinha. Now, you've probably heard me talk about this one. This is At Least You Have Your Health by Maddie Sinha. So White Coat Diaries was her first novel, and somebody described it on Goodreads as Grey's Anatomy meets Scrubs with a South Asian female protagonist, and I was sold. I really loved Grey's Anatomy. Haven't watched Scrubs, but I'm sure I would like it. But it was a medical drama. So White Coat Diaries follows your main protagonist. She's an Indian American doctor in residency, and there's a lot of medical drama. The whole book pretty much just takes place like in the hospital. It spans over the course of a few years, so you get the chance to see a lot of character development, plot development. I really, really enjoyed it. I absolutely love Maddie Sinha's way of writing. It's very captivating, and she just has a way of making her characters very relatable and very complex. I will definitely be picking up anything else Maddie Sinha writes. Check out White Coat Diaries if you enjoy medical dramas. Alright, the next book I read in the month of March, again, another romance. I did a lot of academic reading this month, hence why I needed my fiction to be very light and very fun and very easy, so you're gonna see a lot of romances on here. But the next book I read in March was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. My very first Ali Hazelwood. I've seen a lot of hype around this book, and I finally picked it up, and I gotta say I enjoyed it. And what really drew me to this was the fact that Ali Hazelwood is a scientist herself, and so she writes love stories or romances centered around women in STEM, so science, tech, engineering, medicine, and I thought that was a really cool premise, because we see a lot of small town romances, we see a lot of, you know, just like some of those typical tropes, but this book is pretty much just set in a lab. The entire book is in an academic setting in a university, and the main character is working towards her PhD. And there was obviously a lot of science jargon in here that I didn't understand, but I still had fun with, and it wasn't as steamy. I believe there was only 1 or 2 steamy scenes, so there was a lot more plot as well. I really enjoyed it. Up next, I have Immortality by Dana Schwartz. This is the second one in the Anatomy duology. This is Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. Great book, check it out. But basically, this series is a historical fiction, a historical romance. It's marketed as a YA read, but honestly, I thought the level of writing was definitely deeper than some of the other YAs that I have read. So again, you know me, I love anything with a feminist twist, and this series follows the story of Hazel Sinnott. She is in Edinburgh, so Regency era, so we're looking at early 1800s, so 200 years ago in Edinburgh, Scotland. She is from an aristocratic family, so not only, you know, is it not okay for women to practice medicine, but if you're from the upper class, then definitely it's a big no-no. But she wants to be a surgeon. So the story follows, the first book follows her journey trying to like really navigate this like male-dominated field, and she eventually meets this guy Jack, who is from like poverty. He's from lower class, and the way he makes a living is by sneaking around at night, digging up freshly buried graves and selling those bodies to the medical society so they can be used as cadavers, because apparently that was a whole business back in the day. And so the two of them meet. It's an unlikely romance, so that's fun. But again, the romance was a nice subplot. The main plot was just Hazel's like journey trying to really follow her passion, which is to do medicine in a super in a medical system that's very prejudiced and it's very sexist. And I had a lot of fun reading this. My only qualm with Immortality was that it was not set in Edinburgh. Now, it was set in Regency England, and I absolutely love that setting of England. Like, I have a ton of books that are set in Regency era in England, and I absolutely love reading about that. But there was just something about the gloomy, moody Scotland setting that I really, really enjoyed in the first book. So I was a little bit disappointed the second book didn't have that. But it was still a good conclusion to the series. So it's a duology, so this is it. It's a good historical fiction in general, and I love my female protagonists. I love reading about women who are trying to go against the tide, break the status quo. So this was a lot of fun. Alright, next up, I read on my Kindle It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, another Tessa Bailey romance. It was fun. It takes place in a small fishing village in Washington. And it was nice. I gave it 3 stars. It was a fun read. The main character gave me, if you've seen the Schitt's Creek, she gave me Alexis vibes, the female protagonist, which I absolutely loved. I loved Alexis, and I loved her character growth through all the seasons in Schitt's Creek. So that's what the main character felt like. Again, it's a Tessa Bailey book, so it was very, very steamy. It was a nice escape to read. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 3 stars. I believe it was really good. It was fun. The next book that I read again on my Kobo was Homewreckers by Mary Kay Andrews. Now, this book, I think I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. It started out really nice. It follows a story of a main character who's this like young widow. She's in her early 30s, a young widow, and she is in Savannah, and she's in a home renovation business. So she renovates homes for a living, flips them, and so I really enjoyed that type of a character. It was a relatively more unusual portrayal of a female character in a romance setting. And usually, we tend to see women as more like docile or like insecure or, lost in life. But I really enjoyed this main character. She was very like strong-headed, like knows what she's doing, like in the construction business. So it was fun reading that. But this book, my gosh, this was brutal. It was stretched so long. So what happens in Homewreckers is she has a home renovation business. She gets approached by HGTV to start a renovation show. They start working on a house, and they get caught up in an unsolved murder from like 17 years ago. And it really drew me in. I love anything home renovation. I love cozy mysteries. And so I was like, great, it's a cozy mystery. I was all in for it. And the first half was actually quite good. There was some romance. There was that mystery element. But it just felt too long. Like the plot just seemed like really stretched for no reason. Like the last, I believe, 4 or 5 chapters, I just really wanted to put this book down. I wanted to DNF it. The only reason why I kept reading till the end, because I wanted to find out who did the murder. That's literally the only reason. But I was so frustrated. It was just like it went on and on and on when I think it could have been condensed. So that was sort of my issue with this. I think people on Goodreads had similar experiences with this. So I gave it 2.5 stars. I feel a little bit bad saying that, but it was very promising in the start. I don't know if I'm gonna read more by this author. Maybe, I hope so. I would love to give this type of, like her style of writing another chance, but not the biggest fan of this book. Amazing premise, but not the biggest fan of how it progressed for me. Alright, up next is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the second one in the series of It Happened One Summer. So Happened One Summer is about the eldest sister, and this is the younger sister. So I don't know if I said this, but basically the sisters are these rich girls from LA who happen to find themselves in small towns, right? Like very Alexis-like from Schitt's Creek, and they have to do life. And so this was a story of Hannah, who's the younger sister. It was nice. I definitely enjoyed It Happened One Summer more. This takes place in the same town, so same like small fishing town. I gotta say I enjoyed the female protagonist from It Happened One Summer. I'm totally spacing out on her name. But I enjoyed her character a little bit more than I enjoyed Hannah. And same with the main person, the main guy here, Fox. It was a nice romance, but it just seemed like a little bit too convenient. But it was still nice. I believe I still gave it 3 stars. It was a fun read, a nice like book to escape into, and I like a small town setting as well. Oh, and I learned a lot about like ships and fishing in both of these books. Just extra general knowledge to have, I guess. All right, the second last book I read for the month of March was Camilla Knows Best by Farah Heron. Now, she's a Canadian author, and Camilla Knows Best is basically an Emma retelling set in Toronto in present time and focuses on, like, has a South Asian character focus. I really enjoyed it. Emma is definitely one of my favorite Austens. I know people really love Pride and Prejudice and people really love Sense and Sensibility. I am, unfortunately, for whatever reason, not the biggest Pride and Prejudice fan, but I really love Emma, mainly because she is such an imperfect but lovable character. The first time I read Emma, I was just so annoyed with her, but just over time, I came to love her. And so Camilla is very similar, right? So it is an Emma retelling. So you have Camilla, who is, I believe, an Indian-Canadian, Indo-Canadian young woman. And again, same plot line. She's trying to matchmake people, set people up. I really enjoyed the focus on brown culture, brown foods, all of these brown characters. And I feel like the author had a really nice balance between sharing what was culturally relevant while actually staying true to the essence of Emma. So the plot line was pretty much like identical, and I really appreciated that. I know some people with retellings, they want alternative endings, or they would like to see some new parts of the plot, but for me that could go honestly one way or the other. So I really enjoyed the way that Farah Heron did it. It was a lot of fun to read. I think finished it in 2-3 days. I gave it a 3.75, so almost a 4-star, and I will check out more books from this author. And we made it. This is my last fiction book for the month of March. This is To Have and to Hoax by Martha Waters. This is a Regency era romance in Regency England, early 1800s. I believe this is the first one in a series of like 5 books, because it follows this group of friends. And this is the story of Lady Violet Grey and Lord James Audley, and they meet. There's like a forced marriage type of a situation because they're caught in a compromised position, and then a few years pass and you kind of see like the progression of their relationship. I enjoy historical romances. I love anything in the Regency era. I love Regency era mysteries. I love Regency era historical fiction, Regency era like historical romance, anything. This book started off really, really well for me. One of the biggest issues that people had on Goodreads was that they were just really annoyed at how immature these characters were. For me, I was fine. I didn't mind it until towards the end. I think, again, same thing with Homewreckers. I mean, Homewreckers, I felt a lot more ways about it, but this was still good. I still gave this a 3 stars. But again, it just, I had a lot of patience and perspective for these characters, but towards the end, like I think the last 3-4 chapters, they didn't need to happen in my opinion. They were very unnecessary, and I wanted to pick this book up and toss it across the room when we hit the last point of contention towards the end of the book, because that just seemed so immature and so unnecessary, and I was so frustrated with these characters. And honestly, then the way that it ended so abruptly after that, it's like, oh, everything is crap. Oh, everything is great. And you know, that just felt like a little bit too convenient. It almost felt like those chapters were not needed, like they were not necessary. And that for me took away from like a lot of the enjoyment, just that ending and how it was just so immature. So I still liked it. I'll still probably read the next one in the series because I enjoy anything Regency era. I'll keep you posted. I'm sure you'll hear about it on here, but I don't know if authors feel like they have to fill like a quota when it comes to the number of printed pages they need to have. I don't know if that's a thing, but that was not. Last couple chapters were not needed. I would have, given what these characters have gone through in the book, I would have liked to see a little bit more maturity by the end. You know, it's almost like you keep putting your hand on a hot stove again and again and again, and you're not learning from the burns that you're experiencing. It just seems, I understand that people, you know, have like same patterns of relating to one another. People tend to make same mistakes, but that's over the course of your life, not in a span of like 3 or 4 weeks, which is when most of this book is set. So it just felt like you literally just made this mistake 2 days ago and you're doing the same thing again. So that was what was frustrating for me, because I understand that, you know, people are very complex and we have these styles of relating and attaching to people, and that totally makes sense. But it just, a lot of this book didn't really jive with me, and I think people had similar issues, but it was still fun. It was still fun. The banter was still fun. The setting was still fun. And this Regency era style of writing was nice, because sometimes when I read books from this era, it can seem like they're trying too hard to be very Jane Austen-y, but it was nice, good to read, fun to read, without feeling like it was trying too hard. All right, everyone, there you have it. Those are the books that I read in the month of March. Let me know if you've read any of these, and if you have, I want to hear your thoughts on them. Let's chat down below. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one.